We're live. What's up, everyone? I'm just painting some more backgrounds for some short I'm working on for Animation Plus. What's up, Will G? So, let's get cracking. So what I'm doing here is, this is a shot of this scene here, but like all basically like from the perspective of over here, this area, facing this wall. So I'm sort of doing my best guesswork. And, you know, I'm trying to get it roughly correct. Yes, it's the interior of the ship. Yes. I had a really long day today. Working an advertising gig. That is, I'm really trying to be like professional, but I'm just not used to. Hey Bafana, what's up? I'm not used to how do I say this? Hey, thanks for the subscription. Bruce? I'm used to really just making things and not questioning myself and really believing in my decisions. And when you work a commercial job, you have to make like 10 variations on everything so the client can kind of make choices. And it makes me second guess myself so much that it becomes very hard for me to make like confident choices. And then I feel like that sort of diminishes my artistic power. And then on top of that, then I have to like, you know, react to their notes and stuff like that. And then I'm like constantly like diluting what already was like I was in my head about, you know. It's very difficult for me to do work on commercial gigs. But I can't complain because I was unemployed for a long time, so I have to just kind of bite down on the mouthpiece, you know. And try to live up to their expectations while also making something like novel and unexpected for them to be excited about at the same time. It's really challenging, I would say. What's up, Gornator? Well, you know, I shouldn't complain because they thought of me and asked me to do the job, so I should feel lucky, you know? But it doesn't mean that it's not difficult. It is difficult. And it is what it is. So I try my best to be as accommodating as possible. Let's see here. Let's hit that blue. You're now the music I'm writing to. All right. Are you trying to write some stories? Yeah, I mean, if I really wanted to blow off steam, I'd just be playing video games right now, but I feel like I just have to, I really have to get this done. I gotta speed run this short, you know? Can't dilly-dally. Let's see here. Well, I appreciate it, Befano. I hung out with my cousin last night. My cousin was visiting from out of town. And her dad, Shane, or her stepdad rather, Shane was a director of operations at a botanical garden in Virginia for a long time. And when I was researching the short I made for Cartoon Network called Hungry Ghost, I interviewed Shane to ask him, like, how do you run a botanical garden? Like, how do you stay above water financially and all that kind of stuff? Like, so I did a little bit of research to find out, like, how to, you know, what does a garden director do exactly? And I interviewed him for like 2 hours talking about it. So just before I started streaming, I sent him the link to the short that's on the Warner Brothers channel. So hopefully he likes it and gets a kick out of it. Because he's the one that told me that at least the garden in their town was largely financed by a group of nuns. So that gave me the idea for the scary nuns in the short. Do I like gardening? Not really, to be honest. I've always had aspirations to be a green thumb kind of person. And there's been times in my backyard where I've, you know, gone out to the nursery and picked out picked out plants and things that I thought would go well in my backyard, and usually something would happen, like my landlord would get gardeners to come like pull everything up because she thought I was planting weeds in the garden or something. So my backyard is kind of a mess. Yeah, I can only do succulents as well. So I plant lots of succulents in my backyard. Some of them are still doing okay, but it was, you know, like I was in this relationship where especially during the pandemic, my girlfriend at the time really wanted to like make the garden sort of like her vision. So she kind of took over the backyard and started planting plants that were more difficult to take care of. And then after we broke up, all those plants died because I'm not good at taking care of plants, and I knew this, but you know, that's why I only planted succulents, because I was like, I can take care of a succulent. Radishes are easy? Okay. I just try to like be really realistic with my understanding, like what I'm capable of with my projects, you know? And when it comes to gardening and backyard stuff, I know my limitations are pretty much limited to thriving desert plants, you know? Easy to maintain desert plants. But I haven't really fixed up my backyard in 2 years. Like sometimes I feed my cat in my backyard a lot because she likes to eat outside for some reason. And I'll just stare at my backyard and be like, man, I really need to do something here. This could get plussed up so much. But I don't know, man. I was like battling through a lot of like depression stuff for the past 2 years, and it's just like just keeping my house from turning into gray gardens was a challenge. Just like workaholism and depression. I could barely, like, I had all these shade sails up that were just coming apart and stuff, and for the first time ever in the past 2 years, I actually like cleaned up the shade sails in my backyard like a month ago. So I'm getting I feel like I'm getting my spirit back, you know, but it's taken like 2 years to like really can get my mind better. But the only thing that's really been like my solace, or the thing that I can feel good about doing, is making cartoons. So making cartoons and doing jiu-jitsu, I would say, are the two things that really like are the band-aid of my psyche, for better or for worse. So now I'm starting to be able to, you know, like just figuring out where your bandwidth is, and I think now my bandwidth has been able to expand into like eating healthier. So I've been eating way healthier for the past month, And you know, and in 2025 I made the promise to myself that I would be more social, so I've been sticking to that. You got some carpal, so you don't feel good about contact fighting. Oh yeah. Maybe swimming? I feel like swimming is like the last resort of all exercise, like doing laps, because it's not hard on any of your joints, as far as I know. Just go to the swimming pool and fucking do some laps. What have you been eating? I've just been eating, okay, I make sure to eat at least one of my meals a day is a salad. And luckily I have a salad dressing I like to make that I am like addicted to, and I've been making the same salad dressing for like 20 years. So once a day I eat one of my meals a day is a salad. My morning breakfast is a protein shake. And then I eat one meal that's like I try to eat high in protein, veggies, and you know, some sort of like carb, rice or whatever, potatoes. And then I fill it in with snacks like I stock up on watermelon and grapes and raspberries and blackberries and things like that in case I'm having a sweet tooth. Blueberries. I just try to have a ongoing stock of fruit that's like high in water content. Oh yeah, yogurt. Yeah, I should do more yogurt. Do I like shrimp? I like shrimp okay, but I don't like really seek it out. Oh yeah, keto tortillas are the bomb for sure. Oh yeah, I need to get back into that. When I was like really trying to like lose weight years ago, keto tortillas were like fucking, I would just make these veggie wraps and stuff that were really good. Yeah, Greek yogurt. I just always forget to stock up on yogurt. Do I ever realize almonds are plant sperm? No, I've never known that. Get into shrimp, Jesse. All right. I never buy seafood, pretty much. I never think about it. I'm like so busy this year. I eat the same shit every day, pretty much. I mean, sometimes I mix up and I'll make like protein pancakes and stuff just to be fun, have fun. It's like my avatar froze. Oh, you know what? I should turn on the light. Let's see. Let's see if that helps. Pollen is plant. Is pollen plant sperm? I don't know. It's something. Bees rub on themselves. Oops, that's not what I want. Me and my animation teacher watched a bunch of cartoons in class since I was the only one who showed up. I showed him Huggy Ghost, and he laughed really hard when Huggy blew up the office. We love the line delivery. The garden keeper sounds so confused. Nice. Yeah, there was a lot of editing to get that timing right on that joke. It's a fucking ready to go to series. Yeah, I don't think it's doing well enough online to go to series. But it's nice that people seem to like it. At least the people who watched it. It's very very encouraging. I love Jesus too. Can't stop thinking about you. Nice. Someone's losing their minds. Hey, Jesus too loves you too. Jesus too loves all of his children. Have I ever heard of the sci-fi novel Passmaster? Bits of Jesus 2 reminded me of. No, I've never heard of it. Passmaster, no. It's like Beastmaster, but Master of the Past. I do love using like the terms master and slave and stuff like that in my writing, in my fiction. I mean, even I was doing that when I was writing for Lemon Grab and stuff on Adventure Time. And I always felt a little bit self-conscious about it, but I find it so funny. Those dynamics of like being completely subservient to someone else, or demanding that someone else be completely subservient to you, you know. It just makes for really dynamic cartoon relationships, I guess you could say, or like easy and clear ways of like defining like a social dynamic between two characters, or at least the way one perceives the other. Buster Slaver. You know, and then I get pretty casual about using that sort of language because to me the world we're living in is like a fiction, you know, like sort of a story, and I get pretty like spacey about that kind of stuff. Even in informing, there's a slave character who I was like personally like trying to figure out, you know, like follow the story about this slave, and his you know, the conclusion of this slave's story arc was not like a redemption story. It was more like someone who's been conditioned to think of themselves as a slave, you know. uh, I intentionally like didn't resolve their story in a satisfying way because I felt like they had been like they didn't know a life outside of what they were born into, you know. I don't know what I'm trying to talk about. How did I start talking about that? Oh, something master, past master, master. A lot of times I'll name characters like master, you know, something master. Yeah, like Dobby, for sure. Yeah, when I would watch I never read the Harry Potter books, but I watched the movies, and the Dobby character, I was always like, something about Dobby fascinated me for sure. Yeah, and I just don't think like obviously like master and slave and things like that have like really negative connotations, but they also are defined beyond those certain parameters, you know, like there's like a broader, more like it encompasses more than just one specific example of really negative trauma within the like American history, you know. Like you could say like martial arts master, you know, someone who's mastered kung fu is a master, or someone who's someone who's like achieved the highest level of like calligraphy writing is a calligraphy master, you know. So it has a broader meaning than just exploitation, like some sort of like exploitative power dynamic. Yeah, Peacemaster was a character I created. I named Peacemaster because I felt like he was a contradiction, you know. So he was like trying to enforce peace. If I remember right, he was trying to enforce peace like through brutality, through being like a slave master, you know. So I was trying to like tap into that sort of language. As a way of like triggering some sort of like, you know, like giving the audience like a jolt of something scary, you know. I don't know, that's what like fiction is for. You like tap into these things, like using names have power, using language to shock and the audience into attention, you know. It hits something deep into their history or something, or like shared emotional history. I met someone who was Peacemaster. I felt really bad for him, but he also making my life hell, even though he meant well. Right. Yeah, exactly. I totally forgot about Peacemaster. I don't even know if was Peacemaster in like more than one episode. No, just the one. Yeah, maybe Peacemaster didn't deserve to be in any more episodes. Sort of like, what's his name? Who's the guy who's like the king of the goblins or whatever? Fuck. Zergiak. Zergiak, I demanded to make another Zergiak episode. Yeah. Maybe it wasn't worth it. But I had to try, you know? Had to try. Big Destiny. I feel like Big Destiny had enough Riz to be featured more than once. All right, let's work on the foreground color now. Flats. Can we just get a Craig or a Tim? I don't know what that means. Big Destiny spinoff would be whatever. Yeah, Big Destiny could probably have had his own like a Adult Swim show. Maybe I could pitch that to Cartoon Network. I'd be like, I want to make a Big Destiny spin-off show for Adult Swim. And then I'm set financially for a year. Never been to Starbucks in my life, but I wrote that non-exchange. But if I wrote that non-exchange, I'd walk into Starbucks, grab someone's beverage, and just leave like they all knew. Well, thanks, Beekeep. I appreciate that, man. Have I ever pitched something to Adult Swim? Yeah. Probably in 2015 or 16. I pitched that show, that pilot Manly to Adult Swim. If you don't know, I made a pilot called Manly that's on YouTube. You can look it up, Manly cartoon. About a girl whose dad is the space emperor and she wants to be a poet, and her dad makes her go kill his rivals. I pitched that to Adult Swim. I pitched it to two dudes who were development execs at Adult Swim, and they took me to Barney's Beanery for some burritos. Yeah, it's on the Frederator channel. I pitched it. This was after the pilot came out. I pitched it to the Adult Swim guys, and this was probably the worst meeting I've ever had. The level of indifference was soul-crushing. And still to this day, I don't know why they agreed to have a meeting with me at Barney's Beanery. It just seemed like they did not want to make it, and they didn't care, and they weren't interested in me as a talent. And I really fucking was pissed off after that meeting. I was like, why the fuck did they take me out to lunch? Why would they waste my time like that? It's crazy. Like, I was describing the dynamic of the relationship between Manly and her dad, and, you know, like I said, it's like Manly wants to be an artist. She wants to be a poet. And her dad keeps making her go kill people for him. And then the one guy said to me, what if she wanted to be a boxer instead? And I was like, how does that contrast? How does that contrast being a killer? How is being a boxer the opposite of being a contract killer as like a vocation you would rather do? Just like on a basic, like on paper, you know. At that moment, I was like, please let me go home. I don't want to be here anymore. One of them quit, and one of them is still there. But I have some other friends who work at Adult Swim these days, so I've got more like I could like avoid that guy if I needed to, but I feel like Adult Swim is a kind of place where if they want you, they'll call you, kind of thing. That's sort of my impression of Adult Swim. So I'm not trying to like kind of beg for their attention, you know. I did, you know, like for example, the head of Adult Swim is Kelly Cruz, and she was the producer on Adventure Time. So, yeah, Kelly and I have a really good relationship, and I ran into her a couple months ago, and she was like, "Jesse, like we would love to do something with you or whatever," and I was like, "Awesome, cool," and I sent her a link to Jesus 2, and but I never heard back, so I don't know, you know. I'm sure she's very busy, but I'm like, okay, I'll leave this here, and if you're interested, you'll reach out, you know. I'm not trying to be a pest, you know. That's sort of how I feel about it. Because meanwhile, I'm just making stuff, you know. I'm just making stuff anyway. So I'll just keep making stuff, and then if people reach out to me, they reach out to me. That's sort of where I settled on things at this point in my life. Like, I'm trying to be like an independent sort of person, and not I don't want to like have to beg for permission to make things. What if fans reach out to tell her, or Adult Swim, not her? Do you think that would hinder things? I don't know. I feel like I really feel like I need to prove myself in the independent sphere at this point, and like that world like is still sorting out its business, really, like figuring out how to like reimagine their whole like business model. And so in the meantime, I'm just going to make independent work and try to survive doing like short-term sort of like freelance stuff, and then hopefully my independent work will prove itself on its own terms, you know. And then maybe when the mainstream sort of world gets its feet under itself again, hopefully they'll come back and hit me up. Yeah, I just don't know if they would like offer me anything that I don't think they would offer me any sort of like budget that I wouldn't get from somewhere else, you know, like either raising the funds like independently or like through places like Animation Plus or whatever. Oh, thanks. So, yeah, I really think like this is the age of independent. This is the age of making things by yourself. We're in, and I'm trying to like embrace that as much as possible as I can, and hopefully, you know, hopefully that works out. You know, but then I don't have to like I can just make the things exactly the way I want, you know, as long as I can pay my rent, you know. I think that's the important part. I mean, that's the main thing that will keep me going. As long as I'm able to pay my landlord, then I'm all good with making things on like a smaller scale. It makes me feel like you know, you go through these eras. And if you get older and you get too comfortable, then I think you become like less vital as an artist. If you're too comfortable. Not always. But when I have the fear in me, I feel like I make better stuff. It forces me awake a little bit. I get that feeling that I had when I was a kid, or in my 20s, teens and 20s, of like, I'll show you, you know. That was like that was my modus operandi. Is that how I say that? Modus operandi. It's basically like, I'll show you, fucker. And so I can feel that. I can feel that in me these days, the I'll show you kind of feeling. I think it's a little bit toxic, but you know, it does the trick. That's where I am now, yeah. Was forming I'll show you the Dash Shaw a little bit, for sure. Oh, pre-ordered forming. Awesome. Thanks, Charlo. I think Ben's Joe cancel alpha reports because FX problem servers or something. Yeah, the time that I started making forming, Dash had been like releasing just like banger after banger books, and he also sort of trailblazed the like high-profile indie comics people into making webcomics as a respectable activity. So I remember feeling like competitive with Dash, being like, I need to get to his level. I think I'll show you is a healthy young person's motivation, and I think there's nothing really wrong with it. It's like the dark side of the force. Like you can't let it overtake your brain, you know. You can't let it be the only thing going on, you know. I think you have to keep a balance, but I think part of I'll show you is what it's like being a competitive being competitive in sports and stuff like that. I think it's the same similar thing to art. Like you can have that sort of feeling but still be friends with people, you know, and not treat people like your enemy. It's just something that you know, dude, I mean, when I was working on Adventure Time and working with these really talented people, and I would go to a storyboard pitch for one of the other teams, and then they would make a board that was like a total banger, you know. And I'd walk out of that pitch meeting just like fuming, you know, and being like, "Fuck, I gotta step up. My next one has to be the shit," you know. And it'd just be like, but you know, but in the room I'd be like, "Hey man, that was fucking awesome," like, you know. I try to be supportive, but in my head I'm like, in my head my ego was like, I gotta win, I gotta make my next thing has to be the best, you know. And I've talked to some other people who felt the same way. Now there's a lot of gold comics, maybe because there was an illusion of success. There's a lot of good comics. It's a very strong mindset for me right now. I got much done in span of a month because of the constant denial people have been pushing on me. I'm pleased with myself. I still have a lot I want to prove. Yeah, I don't think wanting to prove yourself ever goes away. I still feel deep sort of like need to prove myself. So I don't think it's good for that to go away. I don't think you should ever be like happy. I don't think you should ever be happy. No, I mean, I don't think you should ever be like satisfied with what you've done. It should always be like, I could do something better next time. Now I could be wrong. This is just obviously disclaimer. This is just the way I think about things, because I worry about becoming a elder gentleman with who's like lost his whatever, the juice. I got no juice left in me, you know. Oh Chang, you said, can I think of someone who lost? What was it? What were you asking? Someone who lost the, kind of like lost the plot or something? Became complacent artistically? Yeah, like fucking easy one is like Weezer. Yeah. I don't know the story about the Avatar thing. I don't know. I have no idea what's going on with that. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know, something happened when Pinkerton bombed. They're just chasing the dragon of fucking generic sounding shit for the rest of their career and getting more popular. That's so wild. So it worked out for them to be like to get more and more mid later in their career. Yeah, I don't know the Canadian like social dynamics with the indigenous people. Like I don't know. I always think that Canada is such a I just think of like blanketly, like extremely like outwardly progressive country. So it's hard for me to even comprehend the sort of cultural biases going on. But you do mention that quite a lot, Ninetales. See that you mean makes me think of a negative review Gallo gave of King Crimson. What did he say about King Crimson? I know he likes King Crimson because he's like a Prague guy. She's just saying it worked out for Weezer to become more mid, and it ends up in a retrospective documentary of the band someday. I mean, there's a whole, this guy I know, or sort of know, has a YouTube channel called What Makes This Song Stink, and he does a whole deep dive on Weezer. It's a video worth watching. Canada is still so garbage to Indigenous people. I think Mark Carney was making fun of. Well, that's too bad. I mean, America, the United States is very bad to Indigenous people as well. Fucking polluting their, you know, water sources and shit, doing all sorts of weird fucking shit. I was at a park with my mom, and the guy started a conversation with us about work and goals. He's in construction, talks about how money is tight, but he loves his job. But when I brought up I'm in 3D animation, he immediately shut me down. That makes no money. It's not worth doing in this economy. You just said you make a little money, but you love what you do. You don't have to show that guy. You know. I mean, unless on some macro level he represents like a avatar for like society at large or something. You know. I do think like all my life I've sort of felt at a little bit at odds, or like felt some invisible pressure coming at me from whatever quote unquote sense society. You know, you have to do these things by this time or else you're not a success or whatever. You know, that kind of stuff. Even like the idea of like having kids and all that kind of stuff, like where having kids, having a house, like all these sorts of like having, I don't know what else. I don't know what else there is. What else is there? Signifiers of success, you know, and I've always been so skeptical of those sorts of things. And then I watch sort of like people around me sort of kowtow to these like success signifiers. And I've always sort of been like a little bit like, I'll show you kind of thing. I'm gonna live my life exactly the way I think it should be lived. And like actually do it. I don't know. And just try to be like what do you call it? Intentional with all the decisions I make in my life. These bands were not trendy. I'm sure Fripp, the guy in King Crimson, the band Yes, and Stanley Genesis had probably idolized several heroes from their childhood. Who knows who those heroes were? It doesn't matter, because they were able to transcend all their influences. And their whole ideas about being in a rock band. Yeah, it's funny when you then he says the new King Crimson album, The Construction of Light, will not have real impact. It will not change a thing. It's not a move forward in art or music. It's not a classic, and it's certainly not trendy or contemporary. Closest thing would be the song Into the Frying Pan, which sounds like a radio song from 5 years ago. The rest of the record is not worth writing about. It's clear that Mr. Fripp and his bandmates are out of touch. Has nothing to do with age. Yeah, I would probably agree with that. For a long time, I was ashamed of doing art. I used to say I was in computer tech stuff. I don't do it anymore, but it's crazy how I had to hide. Yeah, you know, I will say, like, for many, many years, when I would run into people from high school who I wasn't like close, because I'm still close friends with some people I went to high school with, but the other people who I hadn't seen in years, and and this was back when I was doing a comic strip for the Philadelphia Weekly, making like $50 a week kind of thing. Um, um, they would say, "Hey, what are you up to?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm in a band and I'm drawing comics." And they would just look at me like they felt sorry for me, like disappointed in like me never getting like growing up or something. At least that's how I perceived it, the way they looked at me, you know? And maybe I was reading into it and overly like interpreting their quizzical face or something. I don't know. But I would feel like really ashamed of myself, you know? And like it would really bum me out. That I was like really committing to this art life thing that maybe would never turn into anything like that the wider world would recognize as being like, oh, he did it, he's a successful, you know, artist or something like. But at some point I just went sort of like all in, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna actually like call myself an artist, like in front of people, you know. People say, what do you do? And I say, I'm an artist. These days I say I'm a cartoonist, but I just committed to this idea of like saying, I'm not being ashamed of saying I'm an artist, you know. Because I wanted to own it, and I wanted to say, hey, I'm living the art life, and I'm not. And I realized like a poor struggling artist has barely any social cachet, but that's what's going on, you know. And I think a big part of being an artist is being able to openly admit that you are one. You should always be. You should be, if you're really committed to being an artist, you should be able to publicly call yourself publicly proclaim yourself as an artist, you know. I think it helped me anyway to be like sort of unashamed about it. Hey Alex, what's up? Yeah, why do they care? I think because they a lot of times like when people like hear stories from other people, they project an image of themselves onto that person, and their own fears of failure sort of they project onto you, um, and they're also like fear of taking chances and doing anything risky in life. They project onto you, and I think most people default to this idea of, especially I would say, especially in America. I don't know how it is in Canada, but there's like fear of failure, and needing to like do, I don't know, if I can make the right choices in life. And I think you can if you are committing to art life, you are taking a big risk, and that's like the whole point. Um, the only way I make art I'm satisfied is telling myself I'll never be an artist. Yeah, the projection, I mean, everyone projects. I don't think that's like an uncommon thing, you know? I project onto people all the time. But as I've gotten older, I've tried to like, recognize when I'm doing it and try to like, be like, oh, I'm just projecting my own fears onto this other person who's making decisions in their life that make me feel afraid or something, you know? So, did I watch that Norm Macdonald short today? Yeah, the producer of Jesus 2 made that Norm short. Aaron Fromm. He's my producer. He's been working on that short for like longer than I was working on Jesus 2. Just like whenever he had money, he would like put money into making it. That's the kind of attitude the character in Man Without Talent had. Yeah, I still to this day don't understand what the fuck is going on with that character. I'm just like, I can't understand this psychological profile at all. I'm sorry to hear about your brother. Sorry, I'm missing some of this chat because it's going by because I don't have the chat history in my OBS right now because my OBS is organized like shit currently. That's why he kept going to fail everything else except what he was good at, drawing manga. That's some real tortured shit, man. Well, you gotta kind of do whatever you gotta do, you know? Whatever works. You just have to hack your own brain, you know? And I found that for me being like, just like waving the flag of art helped me believe in myself more. But other people have different methods of hacking their own brain to get stuff done. You're not allowed to cuss on here. You can cuss on here, I think. I have some very soft like filters running so that people don't say like real hateful shit, you know, but you can cuss. Waving the flag. My animation school friends kept me going through school, although it was so fun aside from the trauma. You said waving the flag? Yeah, waving the flag. Yeah, you can't say that. The art flag. I don't know what that flag looks like, but yeah, you know what I'm saying. Gotta pick some colors here. Purple. Let's go with purple. Or lavender, or whatever this is. You mean like owning the artist life and submitting to everything comes with it? Yeah, that's basically what I mean. That's awesome. I'm glad you liked it. I'm a huge Norm Macdonald fan. I mean, he's probably my favorite comedian of all time. Just like a complete fucking just the funniest dude ever, pretty much. I used to watch the Norm Macdonald live YouTube podcast that he had. I used to just like watch that over and over again. Yeah, I mean, Dave Chappelle has some bangers. I grew up watching him. Probably my favorite comedian. I actually got legitimately sad when Norm Macdonald died. I depended on him a lot, just watching any clip I could of him, like anytime like going to sleep and where I needed to feel happy, I would just like watch watch clips of him in any context, you know. I'm listening to some synthesizer compilation, and it's gotten into some pretty like horror movie territory currently. Yeah, like Norm was definitely like comfort food for me. Just like watching his clips of him on Conan O'Brien and stuff like that. Let's see here. What do I want to do? I'll do this. Grab this. gonna just make a color here instead of color picking. I'm gonna go for this. So a little bit more bluey, leafy kind of color. Fill that up. And go for it. All right. And the only thing missing here is background. I forgot to do this. I'm not a big anti-human person. I'm really kind of like what happened on 9/11 to me. Remember what happened on 9/11? I'm not sure. I can't remember really. I do like anti-humor stuff personally. Not all the time, but I definitely can appreciate it. Oops. Like, for example, I really love On Cinema at the Cinema, if you ever watch that. Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, that's my demographic, so it's like hard for me to, like, to me, like, Tim and Eric will always be sort of like god tier. Well, it's nice when good things get big, though. I think that's the way things should be. All right, so I gotta do this hole in the wall too here. And I gotta do this part, so I need. Gonna grab. Grab stir wide. Grab this big boy. Hey, big boy. Grab this guy. Duplicate. Oops. Duplicate. And put him back here. disable mask. And then let's see. Shrink this down. Shrinky shrink. I think it was good. Tim's humor is about how everything sucks and everybody just adopts that mentality. Yeah, I mean, I think Tim himself is sort of like a pretty, sort of like prickly kind of person, it seems like. But sort of the same way I feel about David Cross. Like, I love things David Cross has done. I love Mr. Shows. It's one of my favorite comedy shows ever. But I find David Cross as a person kind of like not. I don't like him. Yeah, I don't really watch. I don't watch Office Hours because I find Tim to be like, I don't want to know him as a person. I would rather just know him. I just would rather be familiar with the sort of characters he plays, you know, and the comedy he makes, rather than his personality, because I just don't jive with it. But I love his comedy, so I just like don't watch, you know, I don't watch his podcasts and stuff. People blame reboots as what's ruining everything, but I think a big part of it is Tim and Eric getting so big. Maybe. I mean, maybe like spawned a whole era of like millennial humor, maybe you could say. Cynicism and irony. Yeah, I mean, afterwards, like, we entered the era of like optimism or poptimism or whatever, where you weren't allowed to be ironic or cynical, and as a reaction to, I think, the like irony poisoned era of Tim and Eric, you know. But I like grew up in the super irony poisoned. I mean, I grew up personally extremely irony poisoned. So I had to sort of unlearn some of that stuff in order to get along with other people, get along with younger people as I got older. I had to drop some of my like constant hateful irony. But it's still there. I mean, I still have it deep in me. It's part of my DNA is to be cynical and ironic. But I try to balance it and try to, you know, be a, what do you call it? A balanced person. And have try to be open to genuine experience, you know, genuine celebration of humanity. Yeah, so Wonder Shows is extremely cynical. I watched some episodes of Wonder Shows not too long ago. The Beat Kids stuff is still holds up, man. The Beat Kids on the Street is still great. But the guy who created Wonder Chosen, I forget his name. Vernon Chapman. He's made some other great stuff too as well. I mean, that stuff was mind blowing to me when it came out. You know, it was like a big deal. No, it's okay to ask. Was it challenging growing up mixed race? I'm mixed as well, so I don't mean just. You know, I think about this sometimes. If I had grown up on the West Coast, I think it would have been a completely different experience. But I grew up on the East Coast in like a pretty like much all white neighborhood, all white school district. And so I was sort of a novelty sort of like entity in my school. And even, you know, I had friends and stuff, and no one was like, it's like there's a feeling of growing up as a like token, you know, token entity. You feel like just like everybody else until someone mentions that you're not just like everybody else. And then when I moved to, but at the same time, like, I don't know, man, like, well, growing up, so I'm half Japanese, right? So growing up in the 80s and 90s as a half Japanese guy was like, I could go on a whole rant about like how Asian men are perceived and all this kind of stuff, and in America, but like in like all, you know, in like white neighborhoods and stuff like that, and the people I had to look up to as like role models or whatever, who were basically Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, James Iha from the Smashing Pumpkins, and the dude who played Data in Goonies, you know? Yeah, people did fake Japanese, you know, Asian accents to me and stuff like that for sure. But I'll only ever like vaguely, you know, it's like sort of, it was more like, it wasn't like people weren't super mean to me or anything like that. I didn't like get, I would say I got like bullied really like once in a blue moon, like really, really rare, bullied for being different or whatever. But it's more like unconsciously like being like, hey, you're different than us, you know, kind of thing, and feeling sort of like a weird sort of like I don't belong kind of thing. And especially growing up and becoming, you know, growing up and like going through puberty and all that kind of stuff, and feeling like unattractive or whatever, and like just feeling like not cool, I guess you could say. Like the only, like, you know, Jackie Chan was fucking awesome, but he was kind of like a dork, you know. And James Iha was cool, but he didn't like talk. And I guess there was like Bruce, what do you call it? Brandon Lee in The Crow, you know? But then he died. I don't know. It's like totally different now. And then when I moved to LA and I hung out, I went to a party that was like all Asian kids. Like literally the whole party was just Asian people. I was like, what the fuck is this? You know? Yeah, it was like all Asians or half Asians at this party I was at, and it was like a giant robot party, if you know that. And I just was like, what if I had grown up in LA, where there was all these like runoff, like sort of like Japanese immigrants coming from Hawaii, uh, and there's a whole different history for the Japanese or like Hapa or whatever on the West Coast that doesn't exist on the East Coast where I grew up. Um, so, but then I was like, oh, you know, I probably would be like a breakdancing DJ or something if I grew up. And I'd be like really into like fashion or something if I grew up on the West Coast as an Asian. And I'm sort of like, well, I'm kind of glad I didn't get into being a DJ by hanging out with a bunch of Asian graffiti DJ kids. Instead, I grew up around a bunch of like white punks, you know. I don't know. I mean, like to me, that was my experience. And then nowadays there's like all this. If you're growing up a half Asian kid now, or an Asian kid now in America, it's like a completely different. The culture's changed so much. It's like I don't know. I think the cultural perception around Asian men is like completely different now. Um, but when I was growing up, it was weird, a little bit weird. But you sort of lean into the things. I don't know. I just like lean, you know. My mom's making me onigiri for lunch and stuff like that. My friends are staring at my weird lunch, you know. But then they would like want to trade for, trade me for the onigiri for their pizza or whatever, and I'd be happy to have the pizza because I was sick of onigiri. So that's sort of how that worked. Whereas if I grew up on the West Coast, it'd be like, oh, me and my Asian friends, we're all gonna go to Yoshinoya after school or something, you know? Just be like a completely different fucking experience. Yeah, David Cho, yeah. Got some David Cho, fucking whatever. There's some David Cho Me Too stuff. For sure. David Cho No Mercy, yeah. Whatever, man. All right, let's see here. See you, Gornator. All right, let me throw this space background in there too. Where do I put it? I think this is it. There it is. Whoa. Don't forget to save. Oh, thank you. All right, that's all the flats. Saved. So I just gotta texture this bad boy. What time is it? It's midnight. I've been streaming for an hour and a half. It's not so long. But I think I'm gonna peace out. I just wanted to get some work done because I had a long day of my day job today, and it's Friday. Wanted to at least get something done for my short. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Got any quick advice on how to draw blood splatter? Yeah, blood splatters can be kind of challenging. I think you have to create little rules for yourself about how to approach it. Thanks, O-Chang. On Midnight Gospel, we had blood theory. We had cloud theory, blood theory, plant theory. Penn wanted all the blood to look cute, so it would always be like these round circles of splatter. It depends on like what you're trying to do, like if you're trying to do realistic blood or you're trying to do stylized blood. You can if you're painting on paper, you can just use a toothbrush and dip it in some red paint and go to town with a splatter. Or if you're doing digital art, you could dip a toothbrush in black paint to use paint splatter, then scan it in, and then just color pick the black. And you get a nice spray that feels natural. So you could do that combo, analog digital. That's one way to do it. I did a lot of toothbrush spray stuff in forming. It's fun. All right, y'all. What's the third option? You could do some sort of procedural generation blood. I don't know Ryan Otley, but I'll take your word. Okay, well, I'll see you all on the next one. Have a good night, everybody. I'm gonna go play Shitty Crimson Desert for an hour and go to sleep. Bye.